Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Tamar. So Tamar, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Tamar Lyons. I am the founder of Lyons Digital Marketing. I am from Toronto originally, but currently I'm based in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I've been a little bit of a digital nomad, but I own a social media marketing agency, and we specialize in working with service-based businesses and helping them leverage social media in order to increase their sales and increase their visibility.
Awesome. So how did you get into this vertical and start this business? Like, what inspired you to, start like a social media marketing agency?
Yeah. So my background's actually in radio and television. And so I studied that in university. And then I was working in documentary television for a couple of years. And so part of what I realized that I loved about the television industry and in documentary television was helping when we were working with real life people and getting people's real stories. I learned that we got better stories out of them when we asked them better questions. And I realized that I was really good at drawing people's stories out of them. That people, they had all these interesting details, but no one thinks that their life is interesting. No one thinks that, their mundane things that they're doing every single day is something that they can turn into content or could be on a television show. And I don't know, I always really loved doing that. And so when it came to the pandemic, things like that, I was looking for, everything went online. And because I had, I was this not TV, but because I was in media, so many peers and friends and family friends would reach out to me and saying, oh, like you do social media, you do, I've never done social media, I've never touched it, but now I need to go on social media because I can't see clients anymore. I need to take my business and it has to go digital. And so a lot of people approached me for more like virtual assisting type jobs and social media management. And so I was doing social media management as well. When I was working in television, like I was doing that as part of like the role that I was doing at the various companies that I was at. But yeah, during COVID, I just started to support local, friends who were entrepreneurs. Literally, some of my clients were people that used to babysit their kids growing up. I was connected with them on Facebook. People kept referring me. I started doing that. And then, I just started to see how impactful it was and how quickly and how fast growing we were, that I was like, I need to do this full time, and I need to stop doing virtual assisting and really just focus on social media, because that's what I love and that's what I can help my clients with the most. And so one of my clients I was not really happy at the job I was working at in TV. And one of my clients, her and I used to meet at like 6 a.m. and at like 10 p.m. because I was working such long hours and I had to meet with her outside of my full-time job. And then one day after a super long day at work, I remember she asked me, Tamar, do you want to live a mediocre life? And I said, no. And she's like, so why are you choosing to take actions that lead to your mediocre life? And I was like, oh, okay, you're right. I see what you're saying. And so anyways, I quit my job the next day and I went all in my business. We grew, we've been continuing to grow, but from that moment, as we got new clients, as, we got new referrals, things like that, I always had to, hire help, hire support. And then we just kind of scaled pretty naturally from that end. But yeah, it was a COVID baby.
For sure. So in terms of actually, growing any brand like on social media, obviously now like organic reach can be very challenging. So how do you actually get in front of more eyeballs organically as opposed to like paid media, for example?
Yeah. So it's interesting you asked that, because we only do organic content. We don't do anything when it comes to paid media. And I think one of the big things or I guess a misconception with organic content is that the whole point of organic content is to nurture your audience. It is to nurture the people who are already following you and build stronger connections. And so there are ways and strategies that you can implement with your content organically that can get you more reach. And that would be something that I would say would be more in line with engagement. So having really good content that when you do outbound engagement, leaving comments on other people's posts, going and, engaging and really building community, that's a great way organically to get more reach, because your content's going to be seen by more people. When you're going on and commenting, people are going to check you out. But here's, I think, a big misconception is that people think, oh, if I have more reach and I have more visibility, then I'm going to get more clients. That's not the case at all. You can have a ton of reach, but if your content isn't strategic and it's not good and it doesn't actually sell your offer, then you're going to have a lot of reach, but not a lot of conversions. And so you're kind of wasting a lot of your time, in my opinion. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I see on social, is thinking that you want to get your content out to more people. It doesn't really matter if your content gets out to more people. If your content doesn't clearly express who you are, what you do, get your audience to trust you, and then get them to want them to buy from you, we don't even, why are we talking about visibility? We have to talk about the content.
Exactly. Yeah. It has to be super specific. It's to understand who you're talking to. And I guess from that standpoint, right, there's so many platforms today. I guess, where have you seen the most success, and which platform within your business? I mean, obviously you have TikTok. It's back, at least for now. I mean, we have X, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Which platforms do you really kind of focus on?
So in the agency, we focus on all of them. I think it really depends on our clients. If we are working with a client who they're more a business coach or a personal brand, public speaker, anything more on like that end, where it's really like they themselves are the product that they're selling, LinkedIn and Instagram are some of the biggest platforms for them. And I also, just to kind of say the disclaimer, it totally depends on the brand, on the service, and on their audience, and like the demographic of who they're reaching. And so, for example, I have one business coach who, she is on LinkedIn. We do her TikTok and we do her Instagram, and she gets like 90% of her leads through TikTok. But she also is targeting women in their like 20s. And so it really does depend on who your audience is. But I will say, we work with all of them. I think personally for me, LinkedIn is a really good space, a really great platform. It really just, I hate to say it depends. It really does depend on the client and on the goal. I think right now on LinkedIn, there's a huge gap in the market for female entrepreneurs. And so for myself as a female entrepreneur, there is a huge space for me there. Like there's not that many, I don't see anything as competition, but there's not that many female entrepreneurs in the space. And so it's very easy to grow right now on LinkedIn. I also think on Instagram, though, Instagram is much more of like a nurturing platform. And I think that's kind of the way we have to look at it, is different platforms serve different purposes. So YouTube is very much visibility. You can get tons and tons and tons of views on your YouTube shorts. It's very easy to gain visibility on YouTube. TikTok is a visibility platform. Super easy to gain visibility, go viral, create content that is gaining a lot of eyes. But what you want to do from a visibility platform is get them into a nurturing platform like LinkedIn or Instagram. And on the nurturing platform, you want to have content that nurtures your audience, takes them through the client journey to actually get to know you more, to feel more connected, to know, like, and trust you, and then convert them into your clients. So, and I think it's not to keep jumping into a million things. I think with the TikTok recent ban, if it's taught us anything, is not to be on one platform.
Yeah.
So, I think looking at all of them and understanding that they all have different purposes and work in different ways, and leveraging them to support yourself in the best way possible, I think is key.
100%. So what about X? I feel like it's a platform where I've seen many business people. I follow many people, and it's probably a platform where I spend like the most time, just because there's so many people in my vertical in e-commerce. So have you used that at all? Like, what do you think about X for gaining more visibility?
Yeah, I think X, you have a great opportunity to gain visibility. To be completely transparent, we don't deal with it so much just because of the type of clientele that we work with. We see more, what you can share on X, you could also share on Threads. Short form written content is not, it's a different type of content. I don't want to say it's not popular. It is very popular. There are huge viewer pools on X and on Threads and on all those things. We typically generally work more with like short form video content.
Okay.
So I definitely think if you're somebody who is, you share a lot of updates and you want to post multiple times per day, and you can share short things, and you want to share articles, and you want to share more news, that to me, X is more of a place for that, as opposed to TikTok, where it's more like creating your own like owned content and resharing it and, getting the visibility that way.
For sure. And then in terms of video content, right, I think that many people try and do it. So how do you kind of guide your clients? Obviously, people can do it from their phone. They can do a professional podcast setup. What do you kind of recommend for that type of content on TikTok, Instagram, etc.?
So I think people make the mistake of creating like a long form piece of content because it's easy and then like throwing it into some AI platform and just publishing it on every platform. If you have a huge audience, that might work for you. If you're someone who actually wants to build and create content that converts, I think number one, all starts with the messaging. What is your actual message? How is your content agitating your audience to take action? So that's step one, is what do you need to say? Step two, it's going to matter on the platform. What's going to work well on TikTok is not going to necessarily work well on Instagram.
Yeah.
For example, on Instagram, you could have really beautiful aesthetic, like B-roll style videos that will perform really well, where it's just kind of like, you shoot something on your phone, you add text over it. It's really agitational. That will work on Instagram. That will not work on TikTok. And you have to just think about it also for like how people are consuming the content. On Instagram, you're scrolling through your feed. It's mainly people it is much more of like a visual platform where we expect to see things that look really nice and aesthetic. On TikTok, personally, if I don't see a person in that video, I'm not watching it. I'm just like, ew, like this is AI generated. Like you just keep going through. And so when it comes to creating video content, you have to, number one, be intentional about what platform it's going to be made for. Number two, if you're a personal brand and you want to, share something, you want to make sure your content really has a hook. It has, value, meat in it, and it has some sort of call to action. So people know what you want them to do from this video. And so often with our clients, if they have a podcast and they don't have time, because that I'd say is one of the biggest things, is they want to put out content, but they don't really have time to do it. The best thing that we would tell them to do is either we'll hop on a call similar to this and we'll just like download the Zoom call and use that to chop that up into content. Or what they can do is, getting into a podcast studio, producing a podcast and having that as their main funnel of content, that main piece of content, and that can be broken down further. But yeah, when it comes to creating content, I think there's like obviously the strategy that's involved, but also there's a big piece of being authentic and sharing and making sure that you've got that hook, the value, and the calls to action.
100%. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different nuances, like as you said, and I think it's, people sometimes try to do like the easy way out and use AI and all these different things. And obviously AI can help you, but I believe, especially nowadays, authenticity is super, super important.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so true. And I think we've seen this even, not to keep like bringing up the COVID era, but I think that's one of the big shifts that we saw is that people need human connection. If you even see just like looking now in like the business world, what I'm seeing, communities right now, online communities, in-person communities, specific like niche groups of people, like women in Toronto who market, like who are in marketing, like such specific groups for people to get together, because humans are craving that connection. When we like lost that, we like realized how important it actually is. And I think in a world where social media is so much at the forefront of everything, we forget we actually should go out and meet people and be with people. And so I completely I see that so much that like people are really desiring that connection. And so the more that you can create that, the more people trust you. It's not about, having an AI generated ad like that. I see those now. They come up on my Instagram all the time or on LinkedIn. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, unless you're a huge celebrity that people know, or you know what I mean? Things like that. How does that, you're missing that human element.
Right,
people are really craving that connection, and we have to find ways to continue to create it and not to take away from it.
Yeah, I've seen like an AI ad with like Mark Cuban. Like obviously that makes sense. People know who he is, but like, yeah, like the average person, people are not going to really be attracted to something like that.
No, and I think it lends to so many issues, I think. And yeah, people want authenticity, and that's what sells. I think, I've been chatting with a couple of my colleagues, and we're talking about, doing like networking, joint offers, things like that. And we're all talking about like our value. We're going around in a round table saying like, what's our, unique selling point? What is the value we bring to the table? And at the end of the day, we all look at each other and say, we are the value. Like in my business, I'm the value. In their business, they're the value. Because at the end of the day, there's so many people who do different things, especially as a service-based business. That's the selling point. The selling point is that people are attracted to other people's energy and want to work with the people that they feel in alignment with. And so I can have somebody sitting next to me who also is in marketing, who also does social media management, who also does social media strategy. We have we both equally produce the same results. Someone's going to want to work with me over that person and vice versa, because they align with me or they align with them.
100%. Yeah, those things make a huge difference. So in terms of scaling your business, right? Like you mentioned early on, it was kind of more referrals to your network community, things like that. What about now, right? What has been some of like the best ways for you to grow? I mean, has it been like using your own strategies of organic content, which leads to inbound? Like, what does that look like for you?
Totally. So it's actually been really funny because I recently started doing paid ads and they've been producing awesome results, but I'll start at the beginning. We did a very, very good job with organic content on Instagram. That was my one platform that I was on. I was also on Facebook, but that wasn't really doing anything for me. Really focusing on Instagram and every single day spending 10 minutes and creating really agitational content on Instagram. And so one thing that I always say is the best way to convert your clients, so the best way to convert your audience into sales is number one, to be really good at what you do. And number two, to have unapologetic confidence, because people want to work with people that are confident and are believe in themselves and, are good at what they do. If you're good at what you do, you're going to believe in your product. If you're not good at what you do, you're not going to believe in it. And that, again, going back to the energy piece, that is very clear in calls. And so to me, I always like that. I do believe in the product. I have the results to show for it. You know what I mean? So for me, I show up with that energy and I talk about that. I'm not scared to talk about it. And I would show up every single day on Instagram, spend 10 minutes and just literally share that. There's obviously strategies. I've taken a bunch of courses in sales. I know how to translate that into organic content. And so I follow those strategies and I would do that in my Instagram stories. And I would go and, look in some data, see who was following, see who was looking at my stories, things like that. And then also adding in an element of DM. So if people were watching all my stories, messaging them saying, hey, would love to connect with you, things like that. That was my Instagram strategy. That led to, I didn't even have to do anything. People would just book in because I got so clear on who my audience was, what their problems were, and how can I push their buttons and provide value, but how can I get them to want to take action? And so that was really the content strategy that I had going on Instagram. And so we get a ton of inbound leads that way. Then we recently started doing paid ads by boosting those posts. And the reason I say they had to talk about the organic content first is because so many people will go out and create this ad and put thousands of dollars behind it when their content organically isn't converting.
Exactly.
It's a huge waste of money to do that. If your content isn't already converting organically, all you're doing is you're pushing yourself out to more people and more opportunities for people not to buy from you.
Exactly.
But if your content is converting, then it's ready to go into paid ads. Let's put rocket fuel behind this work that you've already been doing. So that's been really good recently. What I also will say is I do a ton of engagement on LinkedIn. I have my team spends about 3 hours a day on LinkedIn, just engaging with others and, responding to comments, inbound, outbound, DMs, things like that. That has also been really fruitful, but I will take it back to what I said originally. The only reason I think it has been so fruitful is because our content's really good and because our content speaks to our target audience. So we get visibility and then we get people hooked. They find our page, they discover us, and they're like, oh, I actually need this. I could use it. And then they go in and they go through the client journey. So I think people think, again, oh, if so many people see my content, then I'm going to make sales. No, you need visibility and you need nurturing and you need conversion, and your content is the heart of that. So good content first, because if you don't have good content, you can have all the visibility in the world. Nobody's buying from you.
100%. So true. So now we're here in a new year in 2025. So what are some of your biggest objectives for this year?
Yeah. So I want to grow my agency by 100%, which is really exciting and really fun. I've spent a lot of time over the last 4 years doing a lot of the work in my business. And this year is really about scaling and growing and being outside of the business, being on the business. We have a lot of amazing, not even testimonials, I guess case studies, a lot of amazing results that we've generated for our clients. And now I really want to take that and create different offerings that can support more people at scale without me necessarily being in each individual client account doing things like that. So I've really been focusing on operations, scaling from that end, which has been really fun, really great. So and even in the last couple of months, seeing how that has shifted has been huge for us. And really just about building partnerships and connections and meeting new people. Without the intention of it leading to anything. We're at a really great place where, we're not oh, we need clients. We have, really great funnel. So the people that come into our world are generally super aligned and we're excited to work with them and we can really support them. But it really is about, just working with amazing aligned people and having more impact. So really scaling the business, growing, on a personal note, traveling some more, getting to, meet different entrepreneurs as a digital nomad, things like that.
Awesome. And then I always ask this question. So if you could go back in time to before you got started, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
I would say the one thing, if I had to say one thing, there's a couple things. Can I say two?
Sure, yeah, go for
Maybe
it.
two. Thing number one is that every single thing that you want is on the other end of a difficult conversation. That's number one. I wish I knew that. I spent so much time stressing and having anxiety about having hard conversations with people. And when I say hard conversations, that could have been like a price raise, this is an out of scope thing that you're asking. We need to increase the rate, different things like that I consider to be hard conversations with clients. If I just understood that everything I want is on the other side of having those conversations, I would have saved myself years. Because I remember there were times when I'd sit like 3 or 4 months just like ruminating on something. And now I'm like, decision made, action taken, 10 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
we don't sit and ruminate anymore. So that I'd say is like number one. Number two is there's somebody out there who's less talented than you, killing it with unapologetic confidence, making mistakes at the thing that you want to be doing.
Right.
Only because they have the confidence to take action. So take that and show up with confidence. Do the thing that you want to do and recognize that there are people out there who are doing what you want to be doing worse than you could do it. And the only thing that sets you guys apart is the fact that they're actually taking action.
I love that. That's really good advice. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out or wanted to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in contact?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm super active on LinkedIn and on Instagram. So on Instagram, my personal Instagram is Tamar Lyons. My LinkedIn is the same, Tamar Lyons. The agency Instagram is Lyons Digital Marketing. So any of those platforms is great. You can also send me an email at tamar@lyonsdigitalmarketing.ca. And me or somebody from my team will reach out.
Well, Tamar, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.